Okay, am
we're
I
live.
in?
Are we in?
All set.
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to April 21st Special Finance Committee meeting. This meeting was originally supposed to be on Monday the 20th. Due to a conflict, it was moved to Tuesday. So I'll do a roll call. Right now, all council members are present. We have Mayor DeBethan Brown, Councilor Politis, Councilor Goff, and myself, Rickford Curtin, Chair. I'd like to welcome everyone who are watching via.
Did you say everyone was here?
From Zoom. So I will go right into business.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Patrick's not here yet.
Yeah.
Oh, Patrick. Oh,
Bingo.
okay. Thanks. Okay. Just want to correct that.
He's coming in.
Yep.
There he is.
See, he's right here. I stand correct. Patrick is here. So going right into business, the first item is review and possible action on abatement of outstanding taxes on town-owned property, 194 Terry Plains Road. Carrie?
Yep. Do you want me to share my screen so everybody can see?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so what's up on the screen is just my memo regarding the request to abate $2,632.14 in taxes owed on 194 Terry Plains Road. You guys are aware that the town purchased the property in late 2019. So we just need the formal approval from essentially the town council, but I brought it before the finance committee because it does have financial impact and it's a little bit different than a tax refund, a standard tax refund. So it's up for discussion. Anybody have any questions or?
Oh, 1 second, Carrie. I just lost.
So because, I'm sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
because we might have people on here listening, when you say it's not a regular tax refund or whatever, can you just give some little background on that, please?
Sure. So, when a taxpayer overpays or there's a duplicate payment, a lot of times, at closing, when somebody purchases a home, one taxpayer has already paid the taxes. And then when they're purchasing the home, an additional mortgage company will pay. So in that case, the refunds go before council at the request of the tax collector, the assessor, and myself to go back to the original person who made payment on the taxes. This abatement is outstanding taxes that are currently due. We've never received payment for, but seeing as the town of Bloomfield owns the property now, and it wouldn't really make sense for the town of Bloomfield to pay the outstanding taxes due because we'd be paying ourselves. So instead we request an abatement for the amount.
If possible, I'd like to make an motion.
1 second. We do have counselors with their hands up. I'll go with Councilor DiLorenzo. 1 second, I will unmute you. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Councilor DiLorenzo. Just a quick question, Carrie. So the only loss to the town is the amount of 623?
Correct.
That's all we're losing at this point. That's the only abated amount being requested. And is this the property next to the Wintonberry Golf Course?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I thought it was. Okay, so really there's no other cost to us other than abatement of the outstanding taxes that were never paid by the homeowner prior to the foreclosure process.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough to call it a cost to the town because, as you know, the process that we purchased the property, we got, exceptional value on it.
Right.
And we bought it under the assumption, we bought it with the outstanding taxes
knowing they were there.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilor Rickford. Curtin.
Yeah, next, Counselor Goff has his hands up. I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I would like to move this item forward and from the item on Carrie's memo, resolve that the town abate the outstanding real estate property taxes in the approximate amount of $2,623.14 concerning unique ID.
Councilman Goff,
Yes.
1 second. Do you have a question or you had your hands up? I just want to.
I have my hands up because I'm going to make a motion to move this item forward.
Yeah, but I didn't want to just end discussion. I thought we were in discussion, so I just want to make sure everyone.
Okay. Usually there's a motion and then discussion, but that's okay. The comment I'm going to make on this.
Put a motion on the floor. So
what's that?
What? 1 second. 1 second. So if that's the case, no question. I know, Madam Mayor, you had a motion on the floor initially. So I just
I wanted to make the motion, but you had other questions, so.
No, I think there's no, I thought Councilor Goff had a question, but apparently it wasn't a question. He wanted to go ahead with a motion, but you were going ahead with a motion. That's why I opened it up for more discussion. So seeing there's no questions, please go ahead with your motion.
Okay, I'd like resolve that the town abate the outstanding real estate property taxes in the approximate amount of $2,623.14 concerning unique ID parcel number R05278 with the address of 194 Terry Plains Road, Bloomfield, Connecticut, which is currently owned by the town of Bloomfield.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Now I have a discussion.
Discussion session. Go ahead, Councilor Goff.
Yeah, no, I think this is all pretty straightforward to all of us, but I would like to make a, I don't know if it's a motion or just a request in how we handle business in the future, because the same issue came up on the Vincent property. When the town acquired the Vincent property, they came to us and donated the Vincent property. So we seem to get in this situation where we accept property or we buy property in the case of this thing, of this house by the golf course. And then once we're at the end, there's this question of abating the past taxes. And, it seems that obviously if we're going to either accept these or to buy the property or whatever, our intent is to abate the taxes, because what are we going to do now? Say, well, we're not abating the taxes and we're going to go back and do it. So I would just like to throw out to town staff, or that for future real estate deals, we just include this item up front. We should have an estimate of what the abated taxes would be at the time of purchase or donation, and we don't have to come back to these at the very end of the day. I think this is obviously something that we all agree with.
Yeah, what I'll do from a procedural standpoint, I'll bring this up probably in the May Admin Education Committee meeting, and we can discuss this. But so thanks for that comment, Councilor Goff. Right now, I have the mayor with her hands up, so I'll go ahead, Mayor.
I think I just wanted to make a point, because from what Carrie said was, we knew we had to come back and do this. And we purchased the property with doing this in mind. So I think we knew. Now, if you're saying that it should just be a one-step thing, once we agree that we're going to purchase the property or acquire the property, it should be a moot point. But we knew that up front that we would have to come back and abate the taxes. Is that correct, Carrie?
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. Thank you.
So what I will go ahead and do is, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstention? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion and review of possible action on updated town ordinance 18-6, tax abatement for volunteer firefighters and ambulance personnel. Carrie, I just want to start off, and I'll let Carrie give some history on this. I know initially this was placed on the March Finance Committee meeting that was canceled due to COVID-19. It was then placed on the April Public Safety Committee meeting. This is a financial implication to the town, but I just want Carrie to just elaborate a little bit more on, I think we're all on the same plane here. I know I did receive an email that I sent to this committee earlier from Attorney Needleman with the police chief on it, with the green light, with the language in the amended ordinance. But I just want Carrie to give some background on this.
So the ordinance before you guys have the proposed.
Carrie?
Yes.
Yes, just a timeline of the background on this, and then we can move ahead with the current proposal on the table.
Okay, so I believe in January of 2020 at the Public Safety Committee, the chief brought up the public ordinance and the proposed changes from increasing the abatement from $1,000 to $1,500 and adding retirees into the abatement, because the current ordinance only speaks to active volunteers. And then I believe the chief worked with the town attorney, sent the proposed ordinance over to the town manager, and the town manager referred it to the finance committee, which was my plan for March, but we didn't have a March meeting, so it is now before us in April. So the changes are just to be brief, are moving the abatement for active volunteers from $1,000 to $1,500. It is also adding retirees. So if you've been a volunteer for 25 years, you are entitled to this abatement. That was not mentioned in the previous ordinance, so that is a change that's being proposed. And in my memo, we currently have 42 residents that receive this abatement, and the total is $36,200. If all take advantage of the additional $500, that would be a $21,000 cost to the town. I don't know how many retired volunteers we would have, so I can't speak to the financial impact on that, but I don't suspect that it would be something the town couldn't withstand. So with that, I'll open it up to.
Okay, yeah. I know the mayor has her hands up, Madam Mayor.
So I just really wanted to be clear with Carrie and the timeline. This was a directive from the town manager to put on finance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I needed to understand that for offline reasons. So you're saying currently we have 42 residents that are eligible?
Correct. Yep.
So what would be the additional 21,000?
So the 42 residents currently receive the abatement at $1,000 because it would move up to $1,500. You would take the 42, residents that are receiving the current abatement, times it by the 500 to give you the $21,000 impact.
Okay, so I think you said we have 42 residents that are eligible, but we're only spending out 36.2.
Right. So
does that mean that everybody doesn't take it?
So
No.
that means that maybe somebody doesn't have $1,000 of taxes to be abated.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
No,
And everyone that volunteers is well aware of this abatement that's available to them.
I can't speak to
That. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That would-
yeah, that would be a question for the chief or
For the
so. Yeah, but
Okay.
that's a valid question. That's a point that I made to Carrie today. I just wanted to make sure. So based on my calculation, didn't come up with 3,800 based on 1,000. But to Carrie's point, you got to meet that threshold.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, one of the other things, and I think why I'm trying to be a stickler on this is because I know that we have some challenges when it comes to volunteers, but if they understood that there was a slight benefit, I don't know if that would kind of lessen the challenge. That's why I asked. So thank you very much.
I think that's something that we have to do as a town. We have to make that clear. And I think there is something in place. And I did talk to the chief, and hopefully this is something they can get out there where the volunteers can be well aware of this abatement. I have Councilor Politis with his hands up. 1 second. Go ahead.
Hi, Councilor Politis speaking. I do, just to Mayor's point, I do think that they are aware. I do know some people on fire, and they have actually been reaching out over the last probably 3 months or so, asking me when this was coming back up for review, because they had heard about it, I think, maybe over a year ago, and were wondering what exactly was the holdup. So I believe almost everybody's probably aware of this. That was it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is as we all know, even more importantly right now, how important, I think we all know our volunteers, first responders, of COVID-19, the crisis, the frontline, I call them the warriors who are out there, put in their life at risk for us. So I think this is a great incentive. And, I think it's something definitely the town will be supporting. Councilor Goff, I will go ahead and unmute you. You have a question?
Yeah, two comments. One thing is just in terms of the calculation of what the financial impact may be of the town. I just also want to point out, this is all sort of looking at what would happen if the people who are getting benefits now increased by 50%, adding retirees. But the other thing that is coming up by what Councilor Politis is saying, and what we hope will happen from this, is that it will also incentivize more people to volunteer, that somehow the $1,000, the jump from 1,000 to 1,500 would be helpful for that. So, the financial impact, I think, may be slightly more than is estimated, but I still think it's very worth doing. I don't think it's anything we should worry about. The other point I want to address is the comments that the mayor made in terms of making sure we had the timeline straight on this and what was going on with this, because I sent out an email today characterizing the timeline of all of this, because there was some question on which agendas it should be on. And Carrie is right that, in fact, I used to go to the public safety meetings before I was actually on the committee. And I think this has been talked about for a long time. So there's been lots of discussion about it. The significant thing, though, is that it has been asked about numerous times because no one has ever seen a draft of the policy, although everyone on public safety is completely supportive of the policy. So when the memo came out in March, it made the comment that the draft had been reviewed by public safety, and it had not been at that point. The concept had been reviewed, and everyone was completely supportive of the concept. As I said, this is something to incentivize volunteerism and hopefully get more people volunteering for the fire departments and the ambulance. So I just want to make it clear that the issue here is not a lack of interest in passing this. I tend to vote for this at whatever venues, but it's it has been asked repeatedly to be reviewed by the Public Safety Committee, and that's why it's on the agenda for that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you have your hands up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no. I just wanted, just to clarify for Councilor Goff, I just needed to know the genesis of this. So I do know that the ordinance was passed October of 2019. And once it was passed, that the chief did bring it up for us to look at it again. But I know there was some question on who should be making the recommendation to council? Where should it lie? And finding out now today that Robert was the one who wanted it to be on the finance subcommittee gave me some more background that I didn't have. So that's why I just wanted to get that clarity. So I think it's a great program. I think it's a wonderful incentive. And if it benefits one person that's volunteering to keep our town safe, I am definitely in favor of it. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and just a way of background, this is a financial impact to the town. So the right committee to discuss this is the finance committee. But I'm happy that we're all clearing this up. We're all one family here. So the reality is we're trying to get this out to our volunteers, and that's the intent. Councilor Di Lorenzo has his hands up. I'm going to go ahead and unmute. Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilor Di Lorenzo. So just following up on what Councilor Politis mentioned, I just want to make sure that we're going to, according to this, the request has to be provided in writing by that person who's requesting the amount to be abated. So how do we go about letting all of, are we just going to publish this ordinance, or how would we let the current group know that they must provide a request in writing so that they could get this?
What I would say is it's the responsibility not only of the town, but for each department per se. So I would say that the fire chief and the BVA would have that information available to those volunteers.
Okay.
So they will be aware that this is available. And I think most of the volunteers, based on what Councilor Politis did reference, are well aware of this abatement.
Okay, because I kind of got the feeling that some of them knew there was something out there, but maybe didn't know that in order to get it, they have to ask for it. So
Correct.
I just wanted to make
Correct.
sure that we're letting them know that. And then my other question is, who actually is tracking? I mean, if we have retirees that served 25 years or more as a volunteer firefighter or ambulance member who will qualify for the tax relief, how are we tracking that? Who has the list of, is it again the fire chief, or who validates?
I would think that there should be some sort of coordination between the finance director and the fire chiefs per se, but I will let Carrie opine on that just from a practical standpoint. Carrie?
So the active people aren't an issue because each organization will email a list to the assessor every year. It's that trying to get all the retirees up onto this program at first that I think is going to be challenging. I think word of mouth in that community is so strong that I would suspect that they already know about it and are already working on putting it in writing so that they do qualify. But okay. I can definitely follow up with the assessor and see if there's anything that we can do. I don't think that any of his records would track whether or not they were volunteers though. So, and I can work with the two chiefs in the fire department and BVA to see what we can do,
Right. And again, I think the program is totally great. I'm happy that we could do this for our firefighters and ambulance crew. But you know how things happen. I mean, I don't want to leave the possibility for, open that there could be some fraudulent activity or, someone claiming to be a retiree wanting to get this and they really don't meet that 25-year qualification that is part of it.
Correct. Councilor Goff.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilor Di Lorenzo. Councilor Goff?
Oh, yes. Hi. Yes. No, I just wanted to come back one more time, just make sure for the record that all of this is stated correctly. The mayor makes a point that the manager made some decision as to what committee this should go to. I will point out again that the recommendation in the memo in March said specifically that he recommended this because it had gone to the chief, the attorney, and the Public Safety Committee. So I don't really think that that in and of itself is a, who knows what was in his mind, but it says that. The one other thing I will just, I will say at this point is I disagree with the chair's comment that because this has a financial impact, it should go to the Finance Committee. I do not think that everything that has a financial impact should go to the Finance Committee. As I've stated previously, I think this does need to be reviewed by Public Safety Committee. But again, that's my point of view, but I just do want to get it on the record. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Goff. Councilor Politis, I'll go and mute you right now.
Here. Yeah, I just to Patrick's point, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there is, for the volunteer fire department, there is a, I believe there is a pension system set up for them, even as a volunteer. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the cutoff is 25 years. So I believe you could probably pull the names off the pension rolls from the districts, and I think that would probably eliminate any kind of fraud or anything like that. Just to that point.
Right.
And I'm sorry if I'm mistaken. Please, anybody that knows more than I do, please chime in.
No, I think your point is well taken, Councilor Politis. Okay, do I have a motion on the floor?
I have a comment.
Sure. Cynthia.
From a procedural standpoint, because there is an ordinance change, there needs to be a public hearing for it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that's in the motion.
I'd like to make the motion if it's possible.
So public hearing to move ahead.
I move that the Finance Subcommittee recommend the proposed change to Ordinance Chapter 18, Section 6, Parts B3, C4, and D, as authorized by the Connecticut General Assembly, Bill 5125, Public Act 19-36, to the Council for public hearing.
I'll second that.
Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, review and possible action on fourth quarter general fund transfer request. Carrie?
Okay, so at this point, because we are in April, we're technically in the fourth quarter, and the town charter allows the town council to authorize transfer requests that go outside of the same department transfers. At this point, I know of one budget transfer that we are in need of, and it is in the department of the town attorney. As my memo outlines, there was an increased number of tax appeals this year, outside appraisals. And also, I think the biggest driver is the timing of when the contract was settled for the town attorney versus when the budget was passed. So the budget was passed with the prior amount of retainer in for 2020, which was $87,000. But the current retainer for the town attorney, which includes the labor attorney, was $116,400, which is a variance of $29,400. That coupled with the increase of tax appeals and the appraisals and union negotiations, there is just a shortage in this account. So I am requesting $35,000 be transferred from MDC professional services and heart and hypertension to the finance admin professional services. Should be town attorney. I need to make a change on that, on which department it's being transferred to. The account numbers are correct, but the description should be town attorney professional services, not finance admin professional services.
Okay. And Carrie, just have a question. What period, I know you have it here, well, what period does it cover for that service?
It'll cover through the end of the year. That 35,000 in addition should bring us through the end of the year.
Okay. There any question from committee members on Carrie's report? Any questions? Last.
So I'll move that we move this forward.
Second.
Do you have a motion to move ahead with the transfers?
Counselor Goff made it. Counselor Di Lorenzo seconded.
Oh, sorry. My internet, for those who don't know, my internet right now is spotty, so I did not hear anything. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. So Counselor Goff made the motion that we transfer it. I seconded.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. My internet is very spotty right now, but I do understand that we have a motion in a second. So any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstention? Motion carries. Next item, financial report. Carrie, for March 2020, financial report review.
Sure. So to start with the revenues, as of March 31st, 2020, the tax collection rate is 97.85%, which is slightly above where we were last year at 97.66%. We are currently $674,000 over in taxes and assessments. So I did increase the projection by $736,000 to get us through to the end of the year. The town, the state was not very active in getting any payments out to us in March. So we didn't receive any, but I do suspect that we are going to be receiving LoCIP and the Municipal Capital Grant and Town Aid Road in the next month or so. I just had to sign a certification from OPM stating that we were receiving the money for the Municipal Capital Grant. So that is a good sign that the funds are on their way. Building permit revenue, we continue to have a fairly good month given what went on in March. We collected over $83,000. We are expected to finish the year at $1.375 million. We've collected to date $1.3 million, which is well above the $950,000 that's currently in the budget. Some other revenue accounts that I've increased slightly are listed before you: the supplemental motor vehicle, interest and liens, prior year tax levy, miscellaneous income, interest on investment, and small increases in the inland wetland permit, SEBRA program, school year, and parking fines.
Yeah, Carrie, I don't have any questions, but I will open it up for the committee if they have any questions pertaining to the financial report. Any questions?
Did we go through expenditures?
That's coming up.
Not as of yet, but we can open it up for discussion.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Councilor Politis, you have a question. 1 second. I'm trying to unmute you. Yeah, here you go.
Sorry about that, Councilor Place. Yeah, actually, I'll wait for the expenditures. I have a question pertaining to March financials, but not necessarily town. And I'm not sure if it's appropriate to bring it up in this meeting or not on the agenda item, but more towards the Board of Education financials that we got, if we could discuss that
Oh, you can discuss that. Yep.
after this.
Yeah, just 1 second. Let Carrie finish up with that.
Yeah, I didn't realize she
Yeah,
was.
we can get into that. Carrie, could you go ahead and finish, please?
Sure. So overall expenditures for through the end of March, the BOE was at 65% and the town expenditures was at 72.7%. Now in my second bullet point, it does bring up the Board of Ed is still expecting to need a supplemental appropriation. I'm not confident that that's going to be necessary at this point, but I do think that it is a work in progress. So I will follow up with everybody once we get the definite word that there is not a need for a supplemental appropriation. I left pretty much all of the expenditure projections the same, except for the OPEB contribution, which I decreased by $446,000 because of our ARC payment was reduced due to the HSA enrollment and that helping our liability. And also I increased the town attorney expenditure as we discussed in the prior agenda item. I did put a bullet in here about the COVID expenditures. Currently, we are at $28,000 expended, and that was as of the end of March. I do suspect that that number is probably higher, probably more around $33,000 now with another payroll under our belt, but at least the expenses aren't crippling for the town. So
And Carrie, if you don't mind to kind of give a breakdown of that amount of what those expenditures are, I think will be helpful just so we could have an understanding of where it's going.
The $22,000 is, is payroll related.
Okay.
And the remaining balance, about $6,000 is supplies.
Gotcha. And are we keeping track internally? Because obviously there may be some potential federal funding through the state. So I think it's imperative for us to keep track of this. So are we doing that currently?
So we set up a specific object code entitled COVID-19. So all expenditures get charged to that. That way it clearly separates out what's COVID-19 and what's normal expenditures. It's easy for us to track. And with regard to payroll, we have set up essentially codes that we can code payroll to. They're special pay codes, and they only are for COVID-19 expenditures and times. So we're doing a really good job. I mean, the police and public works are tracking internally on their end too. So I feel confident that we'll be able to seek reimbursement.
Perfect. Thank you. I see the mayor has her hands up. 1 second. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm Mayor DeBethan Brown. So Carrie, this is mostly overtime, correct?
No, well, it's a combination. So there is some overtime, but there's some time like Lieutenant Benvenuto's time that is technically not overtime, but that she's working specifically on COVID. We're taking we're coding everything possible to COVID and hoping that we can seek reimbursement for everything. Her regular time, it might not be that case, but rather really good tracking as opposed to scrambling later to kind of make ends meet. So
no, that's smart. Councilor Goff, see you had your hands up. You're all set? Okay. Go ahead, Carrie. Is that it for you?
That's it.
Or that's it? Okay, so I'm going to wait before we get into Councilor Politis' question pertaining to the board, because I think that's relevant within this discussion on their finance. But I just want to know if anyone have a question pertaining to the financials. And I see Councilor DiLorenzo with his hands up. So here we go. Councilor DiLorenzo.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really a question, just sort of a comment about on the revenue side. Carrie, I think it's great that we were able to collect, what was it, 97 point something of the tax revenues. I was worried that, that may have gone down in March, but I mean, that still gives me pause for hope that, we're not going to be as bad this year. And I mean, I don't know about, starting July 1, but we may get to close to 100% of the tax. So I just made that observation. I don't know if you could comment on that at all, but.
Yeah, I will say the one little gleam of light about this pandemic is the timing. March, April, May are slower tax collection months for the town. I do feel as though April will be especially slow and May will be especially slow given, what's going on within the world. But I think it's great that we were able to kind of collect as much as possible before the outbreak happened. So I think timing just really worked to our benefit. We'll see what July brings.
Yeah, that's right. And to see that it's up a little bit higher than it was at this time last year, that also, yeah. So, okay. Well, that was my only observation. So I'm good with everything else.
Yeah, Councilor Goff, you have your hands? Yep.
Yeah. Just sort of continuing on that vein, just a question for Carrie in terms of what, I mean, besides, obviously the tax collection for the rest of the year, what other things expense-wise are you thinking about we might see? We obviously have the COVID accounts that we're paying that, but other activity, I assume, is slowed down, but expenditures are slowed down. Just any other observations, you may have at this point.
I do feel that we are setting ourselves up to have a good year end because, revenue's up. We've still had a great building revenue year. So our revenues are exceeding expectations. Things have slowed down on the expenditure side. We're doing a ghost crew over at the PD, so there's not a lot of overtime there. So I do foresee we'll have some savings, but not, I think it's too early to tell. And I don't know how much of it would be specific to being COVID related at this point. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that was anything you were observing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So to that point, I will go ahead, Councilor Police, with your question pertaining to the Board of Ed.
Yeah, Councilor Police speaking. I guess this goes back to a point that Kevin made probably several months ago when the Board of Education first came to us. We have this Board of Education expenditure report by major object, and it doesn't seem to it just doesn't seem to reflect the narrative that we're hearing from the Board of Education. And I don't know, and I'm not sure why. I know Kevin, like I said, Councilor Goff brought it up back when they first came to the finance meeting, I believe it was in February, and discussed the need for $1.2 million, except that their expenditure report showed them going to be in the black. And I see that this report is still showing them going to be in the black by only $41,000. But I would think that if you're doing proper accrual accounting, excuse me, that in doing your encumbrances right and stuff like that, that this number should reflect some kind of, especially now that we're in March and coming down the home stretch, some idea of what their actual need is. And I think that, if they are going to come to us in May, I think that the April expenditure report should have some kind of a reflection as to where exactly all those expenses are coming from. I see where the negatives are on this report, but at the end of the page, they're still in the black. So it just, we have very nice reports from Carrie, and everything is detailed and everything's broken out and everything's detailed right to the end of the year. And I don't see that we get the same information from the Board of Education.
Yeah, and I guess what I would say to that is, and that's definitely a great observation. And I've said this before, I think it has a lot to do with timing on their books. I don't really believe that they're reflecting in the reporting to us. And once again, that's just my view. I truly don't believe that the financials that we're seeing truly reflect to where the board is going to be at the end of the year, the school year. So I believe that's a technical question. I don't think that Carrie could answer that question. I mean, that's definitely something to pose to the Board of Ed. I do agree with you. If you're providing us data and you're currently in the black, then based on the projection, you're going to be fine. So unless that the Board of Ed can present to us, and I know we had mentioned this a couple of months ago, an actual revised budget to show that, hey, this is where we're going to end up at the end of the year, that would make more sense. So I say we play it like it is and hold off until the end of the school year. Obviously, there should be additional savings with, I can say the one item, the expenditures for busing. That should definitely have a major impact. But until the school provides us with their year-end financials, I think that there's no action that this council can take, or this committee with any appropriation to the Board of Ed.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and
Councilor Politis.
Rickford, if I could just interject, as of yesterday, it didn't look like, it looked like the need for a supplemental appropriation was no longer, but I'm not 100% confident in that. But like I said, as of yesterday from the BOE, it looked like there wasn't going to be a need for a supplemental appropriation. I will follow up and get 100% confirmation and send something out to the full council. But so that might answer a lot of the variance between the report and what we're thinking that they're asking for too.
Yeah, because I did watch their last Board of Ed meeting, and that discussion did come up, and they were under the impression that they will be coming to the council for a smaller amount. But once again, that's just a conversation. We need to see the actual results.
Sure.
Councilor Politis, you wanted to follow up on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. I had no expectations of Carrie answering these questions. It was kind of more of a comment that I think that we need to put, if indeed they do intend to come to the finance committee again in May, that maybe that the expenditure report by major object should have some kind of reflection as to their actual need. Because I mean, if you do the encumbrances right and you're projecting correctly, I mean, it should already be in this report that we received the other day.
Correct.
So, and that's my only concern, is that, that we're going to get a report for April that's going to show that they're still teetering on the black, and they're going to come to us for $500,000. I think that they need to present more than just a side spreadsheet like they did in February of these are the positions we need and stuff like that. I think we need to see it in hard financial data.
Yeah, my advice to this committee is not to take any action unless at the end of the school year, because I think at this point it's mute, because in my opinion, I don't believe that our students are going back to school this year, but that's either here or there. So I think at this point, I don't think we need to take any actions until the end of the school year. And if truly they do have, that they need to come back to us, then we can see their financials at that point at the end of the year. So I will go ahead and unmute Councilor DiLorenzo and then Councilor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I think Councilor Goff did have his hand up before I did, so.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll relinquish to Councilor Goff first.
Yeah, this, just to let you guys know, because Carrie has her slide up, I could not see everyone at the same time.
You want me to stop sharing, Rick?
Yes, if you don't mind. Yeah, perfect. 1 second.
There we go.
Okay, so Councilor Goff, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you.
Okay. I was gonna say that didn't run out. Yeah, I just want I agree with everything that's been said here. I want to point out a couple of things, just maybe for everyone's benefit, because before the COVID-19 thing, and we were starting to look at the budget, I was looking at some of the discrepancies between the encumbrances and what they were projecting out. And one of the things I think that is happening is some of the for the positions they hadn't filled, because if you recall, I think there were like 10 of them or some number that they hadn't filled. Those weren't encumbered. They should have been projected. At the same time, those aren't going to happen now. They're not going to hire anybody. They're not hiring any new teachers now, obviously any new classroom teachers because of the distance learning. But I agree completely that we need to look at that. The other thing I want to ask Carrie and just make sure that we're doing, or I don't know if we're doing, but the Board of Ed is doing, I would hope they are doing the same kind of identification of expenses dealing with the COVID-19 panic, that the pandemic that the town is doing, because again, I think that there may be some expenses there that they can get reimbursed for long term. Do you know if they're doing that?
I don't. I can follow up and let you guys know though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I would hope they're following the same kind of procedures, because you know, I know one of the things that from one of the emergency orders was that some of the workers that normally would be completely furloughed, like cafeteria workers, the schools had to make some provision for, you know, continuing some income stream to them. But I would view that as a, you know, because it's the emergency order, it's great that they're getting paid as, you know, for people's benefit, but we also may be able to get that money back from the state because it's the result of an emergency order. So I just, you know, I think it's, you know, let's try to make sure they're doing the same thing we're doing.
Sure.
Councilor DiLorenzo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Councilor DiLorenzo here. Just a couple of quick comments. And, you know, I agree with Councilor Politis, and Carrie, I think you do a great job of providing us with, you know, the month over month review of expenditures and revenues. And I was wondering if when we do that switch to Munis and the Board of Ed is, you know, utilizing the same codes that we have, would it be easier then to be able to project where they are, where they are in expenses up to now, and then where they will be at the end of the fiscal year? Would that be any easier?
I wouldn't think it would be hard in the system that they're using now. It's essentially a Tyler product, just like Munis is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they could get any reporting necessary. I just think maybe changing the report that they provide you
Right.
would
Like
be
it was
helpful.
More
But-
like your report, I think it would be better, because it, as Councilor Politis said, it does show you what's been spent out of that particular line item up to now, what's left, that type of thing.
Yeah,
my
I know like when this is just recent and at the request of this new council, or, you know, within the last 2 to 3 years, the council wasn't, or the finance committee wasn't ever receiving anything from the Board of Education. So, you know, now we're actually receiving quarterly reports. So that's a great thing in my opinion. So maybe we can ask for a little more detail going forward.
Yeah. Okay. And then just my second comment again goes back to the need for additional funds at the end of the year. And I would be very surprised, you know, if they did come back with a request for additional funds, because my understanding was that a lot of the reason that they needed more money was because of the out of district placements and the IEPs and the special needs kids. Well, all of those kids are also staying home, is my assumption. So they're being educated either at home, or someone goes to their house, or I don't know what happens, but I can't imagine that we're going to have those same expenses for the out of district placements because they're not happening right now. And I would be very surprised if we did have to provide additional funding at the end of the year. So that's it. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and Councilor Di Lorenzo, I think your point is well taken. And at this point, there's nothing to lose from our standpoint. Basically, our position is to be here. If the school is in a position that they need our help, then they have to provide financials and we will review that. So I don't think we need to sweat it all and to worry about this. I think we need to just continue to move ahead. And when the school year ends, we would expect that the Board of Ed, if there is additional appropriation, for them to provide us with the appropriate financial reporting for us to make a decision. So I think with everything being said, because to be honest with you, we don't know exactly what additional costs associated with distance learning. I mean, that's something that I don't think any one of us know what's going on, the mechanics behind the scene. So I think, we just have to just wait this out and wait for them to get back to us. So I know that Councilor Goff had his hands up. I'm going to go ahead and unmute him.
Yeah, actually, I put it down, but my statement is really short, and then you can go to the mayor. I will send out, I just got a couple of links today about schools, school spending in several other towns. I think one in the New Haven area and another one saying that all the school expenses are way down for the rest, for the rest of the year. And people are, preparing for that and looking at that for next year. So I think what we're sort of seeing here or sort of imagining is there is already some empirical evidence around the state. So I will find that and I'll send that out, if not today, tomorrow.
Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to, because I was thinking about the same thing you were thinking, that while expenses are down in one area, expenses might be up in another, because I know that we had to get Chromebooks, we had to get our students up and ready for distance learning. I believe that what they're tapping into for meals, for breakfast and lunch, is coming out of summer school funds. So I think they might have to do some shifting around. So it would be great, Carrie, if we can see what their expenses were and what their savings were, to balance out the end of the year, just so that we can get a clearer picture. And I do know that there was some executive orders from the governor about school and paying the teachers and things like that. So I know some of the things that they had to do, and that there should be some refund to them. So if we can get some of that information, or even just a narrative, so that when we're making a decision, we understand the totality of the circumstance. Thank you, Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's a valid point. So with that being said, do we have any public comments? India, do you have any public comments?
No, we do not.
No public comments. So do I have approval of minutes?
No, we do not right now.
Oh, you don't have any public comments?
No public comments, no approval of minutes. I'll talk to you about the minute piece offline.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so before we go, any more comments from my colleagues? Any comments? For Carrie, anything that you are thinking about that you would like to post to Carrie? This is a great opportunity to get that out before we end the meeting. Anything?
I just want to let Carrie know that she rocks.
And we have Councilor Di Lorenzo with his hands up.
Are you going to unmute me? Oh.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I just wanted to ask about the new and improved budget book. Will we be getting one, Carrie? Do you know?
I sent out the revised abbreviated version today.
Okay.
I wasn't planning on printing the big like 600-pound book. They're over $60 a book. I don't know with the social distancing, if people could get it, not get it.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. How am I going to get it? Okay. No, then as long as you sent out the abbreviated, and I have the original book, so, I think probably will have what I need.
Sure, and let me know if you don't, I can
It would
always
be good though if I
generate
could
another
have that
report if needed.
imprinted. Well, my request then maybe would be, rather than use my personal printer and paper, is it possible, do you know how many pages it is? The brief,
42.
how many?
42.
42.
I'm
And-
working-
I could print on both sides, and I'll take it down to 21.
And then I think there's a supplemental with scenarios that's about 13.
Just mail him a ream of paper.
Every counselor should get a ream of paper.
Yeah, I know. We go through a lot of it, that's for sure. Okay, no worries. I'll use what you've sent.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, you had your hands up. Do you have a question?
No, I think everyone's doing a fabulous job. I see that Scott is there. Thank you, Scott, and India and Carrie. Quickly, Carrie, the revised budget, will that be put up on the website with the email address so that people can, do you want to put it up there before Thursday or do you want to put it up there after Thursday?
The revised,
Yeah.
the revised, I posted to the finance page. I just sent an email to Abby and India to add it to the town council and the town manager. So it's currently up there on the finance side, but we're gonna post it in all places people could look.
And it clearly states revised.
It does on the cover. On the cover, it does, and the heading that everybody will use will say town manager revised.
And you gave them the address for them to ask questions. The special email.
The special email has been posted probably for a while now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just think you should post it with it, just,
sure.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Chair? I think he's frozen.
Sorry,
Yeah, it is.
hold 1 second.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
My internet is very spotty, so I did not hear any of that.
I'd like to make a motion, sir.
Yeah, 1 second. I just have a comment before we end the meeting. Thanks. No, I just want to I didn't hear your comments, Madam Mayor. I personally want to commend our finance team, our finance director and her team for the job that they're doing. They're there every single day in town hall working. So standing out for the finance team and and all of town staff. I mean, Scott, I know he's there in the background. I can see him being on mute. I just want to thank him for the work that he's doing to keep us afloat and to conduct the town's business. I know today I did make some comments, and I don't know if you can clarify for me, Carrie, in regards to the public hearing, in regards to the budget. I did understood what you were saying in your email. I think there were some comments from Marguerite and India in regards to, we do have to have that formality because the town manager did present his initial budget. It's being revised. Would we have a second public hearing with the revision of the town manager's budget?
That is something that we could have. The council could decide on that. I suspect on Thursday night, if to hold another public hearing in addition to the town meeting.
Yeah, because that would make sense to me to have a second public hearing, because you're talking about a whole revision of a budget, and that would make sense. So hopefully you can talk to the town manager and we can get some clarity on that. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do you have a second? Second, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstention? Hearing none, motion carries. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right.